St. Patrick's Day Eve. It's 7 p.m. on the North Fork of Long Island in the wine country and 4 p.m. on the West Coast. I'm Sam Kimball from New York Wine Events. Thank you so much for joining us for virtual day trip to wine country presented by Citi. We are here for a special combination tonight: wine, hot honey, and artisanal wood-fired pizza cooked at 700 plus degrees. It is going to be awesome. For this session of virtual day trip to wine country, we have had the pleasure of doing other tastings recently, similar to this, where we did wine and food, recently jam, cheese, and wine pairings. So we're really excited about tonight and the conversation, and a couple of super interesting guests, both of whom started their businesses from scratch and have built them up to significant acclaim, both in the media and winning awards and just generally being innovators. And we love innovators. We're all about that. I want to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's tuning in. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat on Zoom or in the Q&A panel, and we will answer all of them on the fly as they come in throughout the session. And also, if you would right now, hit the chat in Zoom and let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We love reaching all corners of the country and occasionally around the world, and we love seeing where you guys are at. So welcome, welcome all. It's going to be a special edition of Virtual Day Trip to Wine Country tonight. We're excited about it. We've got some really cool people joining us on the broadcast. Hello, Karen from Roslyn, New York, and Alex from Aquabog. Oh my goodness. So I'm actually broadcasting from the winery in Jamesport, so right around the corner from Aquabog, and Lorraine from Wading River. We've got Long Island, Rhode Island, Anna Goerler from Rhode Island. Hi, Anna. Michelle from Manorville, and wow, we've got our long distance winner from Las Vegas, Andra. So it's great to see all you guys. This evening, we are going to transport you virtually to the North Fork of Long Island. And you can see in my background here, that's an actual shot of the vineyard of the winery that we're at. And we're really excited about being here and both guests who are awesome. I'm going to show you a little bit of where we're headed. So in my background here, I've got the North Fork of Long Island to my left, and to my right, I've got Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Brooklyn is in the house. And our theme tonight is pairing amazing food with award-winning wines. And I want to show you, I'm going to give you a little sensation, a little teaser of what's going to happen. We're going to put hot honey on really cool pizza. So we have two innovative founders that I mentioned. One is Mike Kurtz from Hot Honey, Mike's Hot Honey, and Ron Goerler of Jamesport Vineyards. Both of them have accomplished a tremendous amount with their brands, and they're very familiar with each other. Before I bring them on, I want to give you a quick preview of how you can get the wines and also the honey delivered to your door. Both of these gentlemen have generously offered us some awesome promo codes, saving 20% each one on wines and also on hot honey. So in my background there, you'll see the URL for each of the two brands, Jamesport Wines and Mike's Hot Honey, and you'll see the promo codes. We will send a follow-up email to everybody, so you'll be able to get this information. We'll also show this screen again in just a little bit. So without further ado, I would like to bring together Mike and Ron. Welcome, guys. It is great having you both on the show.
Thanks for having us. Pleasure to be here.
I want to point out that this is really fun for me and for us at New York Wine Events, because fun fact, you guys have never met before. So even though you've known all about one another, so tonight is kind of like the meeting of these two brands and the fact that they've been interacting for years. Ron, I want to ask the first question of you. How is it that you came across Mike's Hot Honey? I find it absolutely fascinating how it all came together.
Well, we had a chef many years ago, Dan Edgett, and he came up with he actually kind of used Roberta's The Stinger and used Mike's Hot Honey in place of the honey they had, and the rest is history. The Buddy Boy, as we call it, has been a class act here and is the biggest seller for us here at Jamesport.
So the top selling pizza at your winery, which by the way, for anybody who's not familiar with Jamesport Vineyards, is absolutely packed every week and every weekend of the year. The top selling pizza is the one with Mike's Hot Honey on it.
Yep, the Buddy Boy.
The Buddy Boy pizza. All right,
Yep.
so we're going to see that in a minute. Mike, I want to kick it to you and get you to tell us the story behind how you started Mike's Hot Honey. I love it as an origin story. It's kind of incredible. I'm actually gonna put up in my background here a photograph which you might recognize, and tell us
many slices of pizza ago.
Tell us who that is, and how did you start Mike's Hot Honey?
Yeah, so that photo, I believe that's 2003 in Rio, Brazil. I was a college student studying Portuguese and spent a year abroad in Brazil. And while I was there, I took a weekend trip to a national park with some friends, and we were hiking and camping on these trails for a few days. And after spending a few days on the trail hiking through this park, we descended into a small valley. And in this valley, we discovered a tiny little pizzeria. And on the tables in the pizzeria, there were jars of honey with chili peppers for drizzling on pizza. And I've been a lover of pizza my entire life. My best friend's family growing up had a pizzeria. I spent a lot of time there. Obviously ate a lot of pizza. Spent a lot of time tinkering in my own kitchen, learning how to make pizza. And so I tasted the combination of the honey and the chili peppers on the pie, and it just blew me away. I was totally just enamored with the flavor and the combination of the sweet and spicy and savory elements and the way it all came together. So it was just this memory that I had ingrained in my head. And when I got back to the States a year later, I started experimenting with honey chili pepper infusions in my college apartment, senior year of college. I moved to New York shortly thereafter and started a career in the music business, working for a record label. But all the while, I was experimenting with this chili pepper infused honey, and it was just a hobby of mine, and really just made it for my own personal use and for friends and family around the holidays. And then 2010, fate intervened, and I met Paulie G, who at the time was opening his first pizzeria in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
And there you are at Paulie G's.
Yeah. So I spent. I was dining there, and Paulie came by the table, and we started chatting. And I started peppering him with questions about his oven and his dough process, and he could tell I was really into making pizza. So he offered me an apprenticeship there. So I started going in after my day job, learning how to make Neapolitan-style pizza, learning how to work the wood-burning oven. And eventually I was fast enough that he put me on a dinner shift, and I started working there. And I brought in some of my honey for him to try. And I think he was like skeptical at first, but he tasted it on a hot soppressata pie, and he just loved the flavor combination. So he asked me if I could make enough for the restaurant. So I started making it one batch at a time in the back of the pizzeria. Batches were about a gallon at that time, and we started drizzling it on the pizzas. And the restaurant is set up in such a way that where the pizzas are made is open to the floor of the restaurant. So they call it the pizza theater. So you can actually watch them. You can watch the people making pizzas, and conversely, the pizza makers can see the floor of the restaurant and see how people react to eating the pizza. So I could see how people were reacting to tasting the honey on pizza, and I knew I had something at that point, because people were going crazy for it, and they would come up to me and ask me if I was the honey guy and where could they buy it, and I wasn't selling it. So I started selling it off the bar at the pizzeria, and for the first 5 years, I was a one-man operation, personally bottling and distributing and shipping every shipment myself.
How long did you stay on at Paulie G's once you started really selling? I mean, was it a few months and then you were like, I got to do this full time, or what?
Oh no, I actually worked there for about 4 years. So
Really?
I
Wow.
kind of eventually slowly phased out my time there. But yeah, I've done everything in that restaurant from salad prep to slicing the prosciutto to bartending, making pizzas, floor managing, everything. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time there, and that's still kind of my home base. I still live a couple blocks away from the pizzeria, but
And then you fast
Ron,
forward to today, and you're like, you've got different types of hot honey. You've got in industrial size like this, all
yeah,
different.
so we still make a really just focused on making a single high quality product. We pack it in a range of different pack sizes for different usage occasions, but we're split between retail and food service. So we work with lots of great restaurants and pizzerias and bars around the country. And Ron actually was one of our early adopters. Um, I'm trying to remember the exact year that you guys first picked it up, but you've been using it,
Probably
um,
7 years now, 7 years at least.
yeah, 7 or 8 years now. Um, so, and we've been in business, we're approaching, it'll be 11 years this summer. So, yeah, Ron was one of our early adopters, and I think it's just evidence that it's really this magical combination that I couldn't shake from my own mind, and now I'm really glad that I'm able to share that experience with lots of other people. And yeah, it's this sweet, the sweet heat and the savory notes of the soppressata on that pie that people just go crazy for.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch people eat that pie and just say, "Wow, give me more of that, please."
And there's Ron at the pizza oven, which is literally just in the next room over from where I'm sitting. Um, Ron, how did you originally start with making pizza? Because I mean, you've been a winemaker and a winery owner for 35 plus years, but somewhere in the last 10 years, you became a destination not just for wine, but also for like world class wood fired pizza.
It's funny. About 10 years ago, I was in a basement in Patchogue, and you say, "Why a basement in Patchogue?" But that's where I happened to be at 89 North, and there was a pile of stone in this guy's basement. And I asked Angelo, I said, "What's all those stones down there?" He says, "It's an oven." He goes, "I got to get it out of here. I got to get rid of this thing." And he had an operation that didn't last, and so I took the name of the oven, which is Le Panot, which is a French company, and I talked to them a little bit, and because I had never built an oven, and I said, "What am I up against?" And they said, "Oh, you just need to have a little skill in putting some stones together, and understanding how to run the oven." And so offered them some money for the oven, and the rest is history, because I've moved that oven a couple of times now that we remodeled the place. And that Roman style oven, the beauty of it is, you can move it anywhere in any place, and that's what the Romans had built it for when they were conquering the rest of the world. Those ovens, you can see all the stones in there, how they're laid out, that actually they can be disassembled and put back together. And the hearth is on the bottom there, and the stones pop out of the hearth there. And it's amazing how much heat that oven holds, up to 1,000 degrees plus, when that fire is roaring.
Yeah. So when it's a busy Saturday or Sunday here at the winery and you guys are cranking out these pizzas, how hot is that oven?
It's over 1,000. It's the more wood you put in it. That oven, because of the size, it's a 180, is a very large oven. It takes a lot of wood to heat it, and it definitely will consume wood and give off a lot of heat. That's for sure.
Now that's amazing. Um, well, and along the way, you started really crafting a menu of pizzas that complemented the wines. And for anybody watching who's not familiar with Jamesport Vineyards, it's one of the 3 or 4 oldest vineyards on the North Fork of Long Island, and it is among the most award-winning of all of the 50 plus vineyards in this part of the world. So I think we should take a walk, Ron. If we can get you down into the kitchen, let's talk about the Buddy Boy Pizza. Let's talk about some wine, and let's do some pairing if that works.
Yeah, that's great. See you down in the
Excellent.
kitchen.
All right. So Ron's going to head down to the kitchen. Mike, do with Mike's Hot Honey, or I assume you do business with a lot of different artisanal, sort of fine pizza establishments around the country.
We do. We're really, I mean, the brand itself is really a product of the pizza community. And I think a lot of pizzerias and pizza people feel like we're one of them. Like we were sort of born out of that community, and they're our family. So yeah, that's really my favorite part of the job. I've been really lucky to work with a lot of great chefs and great pizza people, and gotten to taste all of the amazing things that they've made with the honey. That's really the true pleasure of the business for me. I love to cook and I love to make pizza, but I'm a novice compared to many of the people that we work with. So if I can put the honey into hands of people that are far more talented in the kitchen than I am, and get to experience the things that they create, that's always really exciting.
So while Ron's getting ready, give us the top 3 or 4 foods besides pizza where you see the hot honey being used to great effect to create flavor combinations. And then I'm also going to ask you about cocktails and beverages. But
Yeah.
the other things that people use Mike's Hot Honey on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very wide range of applications. Pizza is definitely the number one application, but after pizza, we saw a lot of people enjoying it on fried chicken, chicken and waffles, chicken wings, chicken sandwiches. Um, there are a lot of great cheese pairings, and I'm sure the folks here, if you're into wine, usually you're also into cheese. They kind of go hand in hand, and I really love it on a goat cheese. Oftentimes I'll serve it with goat and Bosque pear. Um, it's also great with like a blue cheese or a gorgonzola, because honey, not just hot honey, but any type of honey is often paired with those types of cheeses to balance the intensity of the cheese and some of the bitterness of those cheeses. So there are a lot of great cheese pairings, various types of cheese and charcuterie. Um, it's in the wintertime, see a lot of people enjoying it on roasted vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
or like glazed salmon and roasted vegetables. Um, and so we just sit back and watch all of these pairings come through, and they inspire us. And we try to educate folks on how they can use the product. Our website has a recipe book on it where we publish a lot of different recipes. Our Instagram has a lot of stuff on there. And then you mentioned cocktails. Cocktails is a Cocktails is a big one. I personally really like it paired with citrus, so I think it really works well in something like Paloma, where you've got grapefruit and tequila or mezcal, about a tablespoon of honey, and really shake it up well if it's in a cold cocktail, and then top it off with soda and lime. Um, Obviously,
There's
margaritas.
a lot of mixology possibilities. Like we did a broadcast with the head mixologist from Jack Daniels a few months ago,
Oh wow.
and we made a drink called the Boulevardier, which is it's not Campari. Oh God, what's the other Italian aperitif with Jack Daniels and pamplemousse, which is grapefruit liqueur,
Hmm.
and it was fabulous. And it would have, if you added a little bit of Mike's Hot Honey, it would have given an extra kind of bite, which would have been awesome. So I think there's a lot of applications. I want to say hello to Susan from snowy Chicago, and we got some awesome people on the chat here. Carrie Ann Huntington, and people who are fans of the Buddy Boy, by the way, which is really cool. Carrie Ann found the hot honey at Lenny Bruno's in Riverhead, Mike. I don't know if
Oh
you
wow.
know that. Um,
I've never been
and
there. No.
so there's a question about pizza, and then we're going to go into the kitchen. Ron and Bobby are in there cooking away. Susan's in Chicago, and she asked, with Chicago style pizza being thick, would the honey be good on it, or is it better with a thin crust pizza?
That's a good question. I think it really works on either. You know, I mean, Chicago, first of all, you've got deep dish pizza in Chicago, but you also do have Chicago thin crust, which is almost like crackery thin, tavern style. It's usually party cut in squares. That's great, but I think either work well. The key really with pizza and pairings with the honey is to find some really great savory toppings that pair nicely with the honey. And for me, like the number one thing that I recommend is soppressata, which you'll see on the Buddy Boy pie today. But beyond soppressata, toppings like pepperoni, fennel sausage, prosciutto, guanciale, anything that's got a nice savory flavor to it is going to pair well with the honey.
That's great. Carrie Ann had a great combination here: smoked goat cheese with Mike's Hot Honey.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
generous portion.
yeah, goat cheese really. I actually I serve it often on goat cheese when I'm doing tastings. I'll either use a goat cheese or a fresh ricotta, sometimes burrata, but the softer cheeses that are easy to just scoop and drizzle and hand off to somebody, those are usually great pairings.
Excellent. All right, we are going to go into the kitchen now, and I am going to pin the camera. We've even got a camera person in there, Joanne Goerler. Thank you so much. And we're here. We have in the kitchen Ron Goerler and Bobby, the chef here, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys work your magic. So walk us through the magic of the Buddy Boy from the perspective of the kitchen and the 1,000-degree oven.
Okay. First, we start that 2-day-old dough. We open it all by hand. It's like in the vein of the traditional Neapolitan. And then once we open it, sauce, homemade mozzarella, basil, and the spicy soppressata goes in the oven. Cooks in about 1:30 to 2 minutes. Like
90 seconds. Wow.
Finish it off with let's just get this going. And then we're good to go.
This is soppressata that is like, this is not Hormel. This is like the good stuff.
Calabrian soppressata.
Calabrian soppressata.
Yeah. This is it. Slice it thin so it gets really nice and crispy in the oven.
Amazing. And then this will cook, Bobby, in 90 seconds or 2 minutes maximum.
90 seconds to 2.5 minutes, just about. And if you want to pan over to the oven, it doesn't look super hot right now, but we have some wood in it. And we'll get it going for you guys in just a second.
This oven is a long way from Patrick. We're stoking the fires. Mike, did you do this at Paulie G's?
I did, and I think working the oven is probably the hardest job in the restaurant, especially when you're juggling multiple pies at the same time and they're all cooking within a matter of a minute or so. You really got to work fast, and it's hot reaching into the mouth of a 1,000-degree oven repeatedly. I'll tell you what, after a shift working that oven, I bet you beer never tasted so good.
Look at that, man! That fire
Absolutely. What did he say?
roaring.
Wow.
Ron says he agrees about the beer tasting good after working at the oven.
It's hot in here right now. Yeah, you guys feel it.
Ron, how
It
many?
takes a lot of beer to make a little wine, that's for sure.
Yeah.
When you guys are on a busy weekend day, how many pizzas are you making in that oven?
Right now it's been like 60 to 70.
Obviously, in the summertime, we're 300, 250 to 300 on a busy day.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's hundreds when you're in season. Yeah. That is great. So now, Ron, what's the number one most popular wine that people order when they get the Buddy Boy pizza at Jamesport Vineyards?
What I think works best is a rich style Chardonnay for sure. Richer Chardonnay because you got the sweetness, you got the spiciness. Wines that tend to be a little bit lighter tend not to have holding power, especially with the hot honey. And so we recommend our Saddleback Chardonnay. It's one of our most favorite Chardonnays here. It's a barrel fermented, barrel aged for about 10 months. So it's rich, creamy, some bright acidity to it.
So it's, because of the oak aging, it's got some real body and flavor and creaminess to it. Now, because the sort of the automatic assumption is, soppressata, pizza, tomato sauce, and cheese, even with the hot honey, red wine. But you're saying often the go-to will be the Chardonnay that's full bodied.
In the summertime, you pretty much, people drink a little bit more white than they are red. But you can go with reds. You just have to have a little bit, more full body, something like a Cab Franc or a Melange de Troyes, got a little more body to it, a little more alcohol. They tend to hold up to some of that spiciness. Lighter wines are a little more difficult with the spice.
Right.
That's why Chardonnay, because of the richness, and it will do much better.
Yeah. No, well, definitely some of the oak aromatics and overtones.
This pizza is almost done. It's been about 90 seconds. You got to wait for the bottom to be done because that's the most important part. And then you lift it up to the flame because it's going to be a lot hotter toward the top of the oven.
Wow. Now, Bobby, do you do that when you're making the pizzas? A lot of times, will you lift it up like that to help finish it?
It depends. Sometimes the bottom and the top will cook at the same time. Sometimes the top will cook first and you got to move it around to cook the bottom. In this case, the bottom happened to be cooked first.
All right, Joanne, get right in tight on that. Let's take a look at this. Wow. Amazing.
That is
So what you're
beautiful.
looking for with this kind of pizza is a lot of leoparding around the crust. And then on the bottom, you have a nice kind of, not charred, but crispy cooked bottom. Otherwise, it's going to be soggy. So cut it.
In case anybody was wondering why I decided to do the broadcast from the winery, you're looking at the reason right now.
Finish it with the honey. Here we go.
Beautiful looking pizza.
It's just a nice drizzle of honey. You're not drenching it, but you're giving it a nice drizzle. Look at that. Mike, would Paulie G approve?
Oh, absolutely. He would. I'm sure he would love this pie. I mean, he personally inspects a lot of the pizzas that go out to the floor of the restaurant, and so he's tight on quality control. But I can already tell just from the leoparding and the bottom of the pie, it looks like it's perfectly cooked.
If any of you watching are wondering about this, don't worry. I myself have learned the verb leoparding tonight as well.
Leoparding, leopard spotting.
Amazing. So Ron, your first pairing is the Saddleback Chardonnay, and I will put that up on the screen. What's your next recommendation? I know that we talked about 3 specifically here.
Well, like I say, Cab Franc works really well because it's got a little spice to it. It's got a little bit more body. The Melange is a really another pretty wine because it's more a full body Cab Sauv, Cab Franc Merlot blend. It's got a little bit more alcohol and a little more of the sweetness from the oak that we get in the wine. But it definitely is something that goes well. We're going to make a greener pasture right now Bobby's working on, which is fresh mozz. Bob, you want to speak about it?
Yeah, this is a really nice light pizza. It goes with a drier, crispier white, I think. This is really popular over the summer at lunch just because it looks a little bit healthier with the arugula on it, but it doesn't, it's not going to weigh you down as much. And really simply before the oven, it's just homemade mozzarella, olive oil, salt. Throw that in the oven. This will cook a little bit faster than the Buddy Boy because there's nothing on it. There's not as much on it.
Bobby, what's the second most popular pizza after the Buddy Boy?
Probably the Margarita. A lot of people like a classic pizza, but our red pizzas are generally really popular.
So while you do that, I'm gonna put up on my screen. I think for those red wine lovers, the other wine that goes great with these pizzas, and especially the Buddy Boy drizzle with the Mike's Hot Honey, is the Mélange de Trois, which is a blend. It's a reserve wine. So this is a one of the higher end wines at Jamesport Vineyards. Ron, what are the grapes? What makes up this blend?
Well, traditionally, it's been Cabernet Sauvignon, and unfortunately, we pulled off most of our Cabernet Sauvignon. We have new fields coming in the next couple of years, but Lagrein is a new variety that we're working with, an Italian variety, and so it's Lagrein, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc in the blend. And the Lagrein is something kind of unique that it's to this area here. And it's only grown one place in the world, in the northern part of Italy, and it definitely is a variety that does well here on Long Island. We have our young vineyards starting to produce this year, and look forward to being able to have a wine. You know, when you went to a brand new area, like we came out here 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we didn't know what to plant. So we planted the usual suspects, but there's hundreds and thousands of varieties. And the one thing about the Lagrein and finding it blends well with the usual Merlot, Cab Franc, and Cabernet Sauvignon. So it really makes a really special wine.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that the Lagrein is a wine here that is absolutely a beautiful full-bodied red, and it's interesting because you're, I think, the only person or the only winery that grows those grapes on the North Fork of Long Island, which it's an Italian grape.
Yeah, yes, and it's when you pioneer, they say you pay twice, and my father was a pioneer, and I think that's like any new variety that you go after, you're going to maybe pay a little bit for it because you don't know. We knew when we first came out here, we planted Zinfandel. We found out very quickly that Zinfandel didn't do well on Long Island. And that's just the risk you take when you're farming something that you're going to plant it and does it do well or not here in that area. So the grind so far seems to be doing very well here in this area. So we're very pleased with it.
Yeah, Zinfandel is a warm climate grape, so you don't have a hot enough climate here in Long Island for it.
Yeah, we don't have the dry area. We're a maritime climate, so we have a lot of humidity here, and so that's like I say, when you're experimenting with the new varieties, you get nervous because you don't know how they're going to react to the area.
Yeah. I think Bobby has produced another masterpiece from the oven here.
You say?
You produced another masterpiece.
Yeah, this is how the greener pasture will start. Cut the pizza. It's just got mozzarella on it, some arugula. Go light on the arugula. It's not a salad. It's a pizza. Prosciutto. I like to kind of fold it and crumple it on rather than having like bigger, longer pieces, because then you're not pulling it apart as you need it.
I love the color combinations. Prosciutto with arugula.
It's a beautiful pie. And after this, we're going to finish it with some balsamic.
Look at that.
A little bit of olive oil.
And Ron, what's the quintessential wine to pair with this Greener Pastures pizza?
A little bit of black pepper at the end.
You know, I think anytime you're, looking at food is you eat with your eyes, right? And you drink with your mouth. So a wine like this, because you've got the acidity from the balsamic, you've got the meat on there, you've got some of the arugula. I think like a crisp Sauvignon Blanc, an Albarino, they tend to go very well with something like this because of the bright acidity that you get from some of those varieties. Because it is a fresh, light spot pie.
By the way, Erin said she loves the Albarino that you make at Jamesport Vineyards with the Buddy Boys. So it just goes to show, as I always like to point out, there really are no hard and fast rules when it comes to pairing. If you like Albarino, which is a very light, crisp, kind of citrusy white wine, the grape is from Spain, and you feel it pairs well with the Buddy Boy pizza, rock on. That is absolutely cool.
I think it's because the dough is so light too that it can pair with like a much lighter wine than if you were to have a traditional like New York style pizza.
Yeah, it is very airy. And that one thing about the dough and you're fermenting it for 2-3 days, it becomes very airy. And that's really what makes the pies the way they are.
Now that is great. So, I think it's only appropriate, since we're here in the wine country and in an agricultural region, I want to turn it back to Mike and talk a little bit about, what's happening with honey, where you get the honey for Mike's Hot Honey, and how that is sort of evolving in a changing world where, you have all kinds of things going on with evolution of the food supply, how bees are faring in today's world. So talk a little bit about that, because I think it's a fascinating conversation about, people should not take for granted honey or the bees that produce it.
Yeah. So I often tell people this, but I think a lot of people don't necessarily make the connection between bees, honeybee health, and agriculture. And we need healthy bees to pollinate crops. And so no bees, no farms, no food is the easiest way to think about it. So a lot of people don't realize this, but most beekeepers actually make more money through pollination services than they do actually from selling their own honey. Farmers will hire beekeepers to bring their hives to the crops, so the bees can fly around and pollinate the crops, and they're an essential part of the agricultural process in the growing season. You guys have probably all heard or read about colony collapse disorder with bees and some of the issues that bees are facing. And so I'll go over a few of the key issues that I've seen with honeybee health. Really, you're dealing with a few things. One is pesticides. Pesticides that have been eradicated in Europe because they've been proven to be detrimental to the health of bees are still being used in the United States, and the U.S. is far behind Europe in that sense. And it's a long process to eradicate a pesticide. You basically have to force farmers to stop using the pesticide, wait 6 to 7 years for it to leave the ecosystem, and then you can test to see if it has changed honeybee health in the region. So it's a long process that Europe started about a decade before the United States. So we're still playing catch up in that sense. Another issue for honeybees is the varroa mite, which is a type of mite that latches onto the bee and basically sucks the bee dry. And they typically are a problem for big commercial beekeeping operations where the hives are they tend to be closer together, and the mites will jump from one hive to the next and basically wipe out a whole apiary. And that's happened in places where we really have like a dense number of hives. And then weather plays a big role in the honey yield from year to year, specifically rainfall. So if you have a very wet spring, the flowers typically produce more nectar. The bees collect more nectar and produce more honey. If you have a dry spring, your honey yield's going to be a lot lower. And all those things impact the price of honey, and it fluctuates and goes up and down. In my case, I, for many years, have worked with a beekeeper from upstate New York, Styles Apiaries. They have hives along the St. Lawrence River in
Right up near the Canadian border, yeah.
yeah, it's along the Canadian border in the Thousand Islands region. And they produce a wildflower honey, meaning that it's polyfloral and that the bees are collecting nectar from a wide range of flowers, not one specific crop. So they were my exclusive supplier for about 9 years, and I recently outgrew them as a supplier and started looking for additional suppliers overseas. And of course, that requires a lot of research and a lot of testing to ensure the quality of the product we're bringing in. So we now source honey from Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay, in addition to upstate New York.
Back to your roots in South America.
Yeah, and also I should note that our the chili peppers that we use are from Brazil. So my family's always had a good.
I don't know if you touched on it, but where you discovered the honey infused with the chili peppers was in an incredibly remote part of Brazil. You were not in downtown Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, this is a really isolated valley that's really only accessible by one pretty rustic dirt road, and most of the people that there either live there or there are people who are hiking in and out of the valley. So it's a pretty isolated place, a beautiful place. But there's actually, what's interesting is there is a wild varietal of the chili pepper that we use that grows in that valley. And they say that it's like 10 times hotter than the farmed variety. So I think I have a trip back there in the cards to go forage for this wild varietal of chili pepper that's growing out there. But yeah, it's if any of you are interested in going to Brazil, I really I can't recommend it enough. It's a really amazing place. Great food, great culture, incredible music, and incredible ecology. And really, each state in Brazil is like going to a different country. They're so different.
It's such a huge country, and people don't realize it's almost the size of the U.S. and it's nestled in the middle of all those other countries in South America. I just wanted to put up this image back on the screen because when you're enjoying the Buddy Boy pizza with the drizzled hot honey, the raw ingredients of that are coming from a lot of places. You got the grapes on Long Island. You have everything that goes into the soppressata, the sauce and the cheese, and the honey is coming from, and the chilies are coming from, various parts of the world. So important not to take for granted where we get these amazing foods that we have the privilege of enjoying, for sure. And Ron, for you, I mean, how have things, as time moves on and there's different changes in the climate, and how is that affecting how you operate? And similar to what Mike's talking about with sourcing honey and dealing with what goes on with bees and the current world environment, like how does that impact a winery on the North Fork of Long Island?
I think the biggest thing we have going on right now is a virus called red blotch, and red blotch stems from the nurseries. And red blotch basically shows itself right before harvest, where the leaves actually turn red and they look blotchy. And the problem with that is leaves are chlorophyll, which helps ripen the fruit. And then we have red leaves, which don't ripen because there's no chlorophyll in there. And so what we have is a stall in the ripening process. And it's a worldwide problem, red blotch. It's a viral infection that comes from the nursery. That you can test for it. It's expensive. Most places don't do it because of the expense, and they don't want the liability. We planted a vineyard about 8 years ago, and it was a white variety. Typically, red blotch started showing up in Merlot and varieties that were being overproduced, but it was a Sauvignon Blanc variety, and it turns out it all has red blotch. And so you spend all the money to produce something, and then you get tested, and then there's a virus. So now, before we plant, we actually go to the nurseries and say we're willing to take the expense of testing the vineyards, your nurseries, but they really don't want that to go happen. But we say, unless we're going to buy from you, we're not. Unless you're going to get tested, we're not buying from you. Certain nurseries now that we work with know that's the process, and so they really don't. We're not affected by that. We get a letter stating that they've been tested and that they're certified to not have the red blotch. It gets back to everything. It's the balance in nature. When vines are overproduced, nurseries are overproducing, they're constantly taking diseased wood, and it just spreads. And so obviously when you plant acres upon acres at $20,000 an acre right now to plant, you want to make sure that you have the proper stock in the ground, because you want it to last 30, 40, 50 years down the road. Once those vines are been identified with the red blotch, they have to get yanked at some point. So that vineyard we planted 8 years ago, unfortunately, it's just ticking time to the point where we have to plant something else, which we have to wait another 4 years in order to get the crop off of it. So it's not an easy solution. We've been ripping out our vineyards over the last decade because of this problem. With continue to source good wood and good nurseries and good practices so that we can make sure that we have healthy stock in our vineyards. But it is a worldwide problem.
When I think, my point is it's important for those of us who enjoy the wines and the pizza and the great foods and the pairing. We all live in a DoorDash world where we're one app click or tap away from getting something great. What goes into those things is years of planting and farming and agriculture. And I think it's just a good reminder. It's not that the average person should know about all of the details of these things. It's more that the average person should appreciate what goes behind the production of food and drink and craft food and drink. So that's my.
It takes a lot of work to make a bottle. It's most people don't realize. I'm amazed when people are amazed when you talk to them how much effort goes into producing anything from a raw product. But there's a lot of energy that goes into producing something that you have passion in the craft and pride in what you do. It's endless hours that aren't counted, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I want to open it up before we close. If anybody's got questions about the wines, questions about hot honey or pizza combinations, hit us up in the chat or use the Q&A panel. But it is great hanging with you both and learning about all the things that you do to make these products. And we're super appreciative of that. And we definitely have some Buddy Boy fans in the chat tonight, Ron, as you probably saw. People who enjoy it at the winery. So
I would just like to put it out to Mike. If I can count on him, if I need somebody to come out and work the oven, can you come out and work the oven a couple days a week?
I would love to. I don't know. I'd have to get my chops back up. I might be a little rusty, but it's like riding a bike,
Oh yeah.
But don't ask me to cook 4 pies at a time. I'm gonna definitely burn one of them at least.
Yeah. So Bobby would say, you get the 5th pie, they're never gonna quite come out all the same once you put that 5th pie in the oven. And there's just that stuff around.
Is 5 the max that you guys do at a time?
Yeah. When it gets a little hectic, you get enough pies in that oven because it's a big 180, and so you tend to throw a little more in there, but they don't always come out. That leoparding, charring, we kind of sometimes extend it a little out.
So Ron, any new recipes coming? Have you guys been in the test kitchen, like cooking up some novel ideas?
Well, it's Bobby and I were just talking the other day. You know, the guanciale thing is something we're going to start playing around with. The guanciale is that's something that's it's a little exciting to work with.
That's a charcuterie, right?
Yeah, well, no, the guanciale would be on the pizza. The the cheek of the pig.
Right. But it's a meat. It's a pork.
Yeah, the meat. Yes, it's a meat. Yes. Yeah.
So this one is for you, Mike. Susan asks, how about manchego with the honey? We like manchego with quince and think honey would be good too.
It's great with manchego. Manchego for me, to me it tastes like it has a little bit of a nuttiness to it, and that pairs really nicely with the honey. And I think I mentioned Bosc pear earlier, but that's a great pairing. Manchego, Bosc pear, and our honey is a certified winner.
That sounds great. Now for the neophytes or the ignoramuses among us, what is a Bosc pear?
A Bosc pear? It's the type of pear that like has the skin is like brownish.
Okay. As opposed to lime green.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find them in most supermarkets.
Yeah, that sounds great. What about a pear and gorgonzola pizza with hot honey?
There you go.
Yeah, I mean that'd be great. I've done another pie with the hot honey and gorgonzola that it didn't have pear on it, but it was fresh mozzarella, gorgonzola, Bing cherries,
Wow,
prosciutto, and the hot honey, and that was great. But I could see it being excellent with pear too.
Now, with a pear, would you put it on afterwards, the way that Bobby put the arugula on afterwards on the green pasture?
I think you'd have to experiment. Maybe put it on before. It depends on how thin you slice it, you know. Like if it's I've done pies, like I've done a pie with lemon on it, where if you slice the lemon, you just slice wheels of lemon. If you slice it thin enough, you can throw it on the pie raw. It goes in the oven and it gets cooked a little bit, and the sugars and the lemon caramelize a little bit, and you can eat it. You can bite right through it. So yeah, I mean, and I think with pear, I probably maybe I'd go post oven if it was like thin sliced.
Yeah. It's depending on how ripe it is too. That would be the other factor. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have to stop talking. My husband is pulling out his wallet and heading to the website. Thank you, Susan. It's great to see you again. I know you've been at a number of our live streams. Ron, you missed Lorraine this afternoon, but she's coming back for great pizza and wine. Don and Lorraine.
Right.
To the winery. So anyway, so it's great to see everybody. Thank you guys so much for being part of this. Ron and Mike, I take just a small piece of pride in bringing you guys together. And next time I'm going to have you actually in person see each other.
There you go.
I will definitely be seeing you this summer, Ron.
Yes. I'll make it into Brooklyn too. I'll make it into Brooklyn.
We'll definitely be coming into Brooklyn. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join us next week. We are going to be going to Napa Valley to an absolutely crazy award-winning winery, Minor Family Wines. And they've got some extraordinary selections. And we'll be actually hanging out with the founder and winemaker, Dave Minor. So come on back, and we'll see you guys again soon. And Ron, I'm going to the kitchen now and take some pizza.
I know. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Sam. Thank you, Ron.
Guys,
See you later,
thank
man.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.